Minimizing unwanted effects is something everyone strives for. That's why microdosing is so effective, because you derive the maximum benefit from taking the minimum effective dose. People microdose for many reasons: wellness, performance and recovery, or to gain control of their mental health. I use microdose to get a decent night of sleep. On Friday night, at the end of my work week, it helps me catch up on all those missed hours of sleep. Today's podcast is sponsored by Microdose Gummies and Lumi Labs. Microdose Gummies deliver perfect entry-level doses of THC that help you feel just the right amount of good. I love this company and personally use their products. The gummies are organic, infused with real fruit, vegan-friendly, gluten-free, and they taste darn good. Microdose is available nationwide. To learn more about microdosing THC, go to microdose.com and use code BEYOND to get free shipping and 30% off your first order. Links can be found in the show description, but again, that's microdose.com and code BEYOND.
This podcast contains adult themes and graphic violence. Listener discretion is advised.
A commercial-free version of this podcast is available on Patreon for $1 per month. Patreon.com/Beyond Contempt podcast. I'm Renee, and this is Beyond Contempt True Crime. I don't have much to say up top, other than this story takes place in Memphis, Tennessee. Germantown and Collierville will be mentioned because the victim lived close to those areas. For people unfamiliar, those are two of the more affluent suburbs that are located to the east of Memphis. If I have to go to the Apple Store or REI, or I want to go out to eat somewhere different, I'll drive over to Germantown or Collierville because Jackson doesn't have much to offer in those areas. You're listening to episode 85, Lorenzen Wright. Lorenzen Wright came into this world on November 5th, 1975, in Oxford, Mississippi. In high school, he had a 6-foot 10-inch frame and was a standout basketball player. He went to high school in Mississippi, but moved to Memphis for his senior year and played for Booker T. Washington High School. Basketball was a family affair. His father, Herb Wright, was a top basketball player in Finland and even tried out for the Utah Jazz. Herb worked for the Memphis Police Department and took a bullet to his back, which left him paralyzed. That didn't stop Herb from working with his son on his conditioning on the basketball court. All that extra work paid off, because after his sophomore year of college, Lorenzen was drafted 7th overall in 1996 from the University of Memphis to the Los Angeles Clippers. He went to the Atlanta Hawks in 1999. Lorenzen was traded to the Memphis Grizzlies in 2001. In 2006, he played for the Atlanta Hawks again. In 2008, Lorenzen went to the Sacramento Kings. He retired in 2009 from the Cleveland Cavaliers after 13 seasons in the NBA. Lorenzen never made superstar status, but everyone knew who he was in the NBA and respected him. Lorenzen was in a long-term relationship with his high school sweetheart, Shara, and they tied the knot in 1998. The couple had a total of 7 children. Lorenzen Jr. was born in 1995. Lauren was born in 1997. Twins Shamar and Lamar were born in 2000. Sierra was born in 2002. Lawson was born in an unknown year, and Sophia was born in 2007. The Wrights lost their daughter Sierra in March 2003 to SIDS when she was only 11 months old. This prompted Lorenzen to return to the University of Memphis and finish out his degree. Despite the loss, there were many good times and memories made in the Wright home. The children reported their parents were loving and were in love. The family also knew how to have fun together, especially at their lake house in Arkansas, where they boated and jet skied. After retiring from basketball, Lorenzen and Shara struggled. There were suspected infidelities for both parties. There were allegations of physical abuse, which were witnessed by a few of the children, but no reports were filed with the police. Their divorce was finalized early in 2010. As part of the divorce agreement, they ordered Lorenzen to take out a $1 million insurance policy for all his children. Lorenzen moved to Atlanta, and Shara and the children stayed in Memphis, but he went back to visit the children often. Shara and Lorenzen ran into financial difficulties not long after the divorce, despite Lorenzen earning $55 million over his NBA career. Their 17-room custom home, north of Collierville, Tennessee, had gone into foreclosure because he had defaulted on the $2.7 million loan. Lorenzen's $1.3 million home in Atlanta had also gone into foreclosure. He was paying Shara $26,000 a month in alimony and child support. On July 18, 2010, Lorenzen traveled back to Memphis to visit Shara and the children. He was supposed to pick up the kids the next day and drive them back to Atlanta because they were going to spend the rest of the summer with him. Lorenzen was last seen leaving his wife's home in the early morning hours on July 19th. 4 days later, Lorenzen's mother, Deborah Marion, had reported her son missing. On July 28, 2010, cadaver dogs discovered 34-year-old Lorenzen Wright's decomposed remains in the woods on the TPC Southwind Golf Course in Memphis, Tennessee. Per the autopsy report, he was shot twice in the head, twice in the heart, and once in the forearm. They later uncovered that the Germantown 911 dispatcher received a call from Lorenzen's cell phone after midnight on July 19, 2010.
Germantown 911, where's your emergency? Hello? 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 I don't have nothing but gunshots. Hello? Hello?
The dispatcher could not pinpoint the location of the call and didn't know who made the call, so no initial action was taken. She did not report the call to her supervisor until 8 days later. Therefore, this information was not given to the Collierville police in a timely manner. Reporting the call sooner likely wouldn't have prevented Lorenzen's death, but his body might have been found sooner, and the cover-up of the murder might have been stopped. This misstep resulted in a payout to the Wright family. They sued the city of Germantown for $2 million and eventually settled for $135,000. Police visited Shara Wright, and she claimed Lorenzen left her home with a box of drugs and an unspecified amount of money on July 18, 2010, at 10:30 p.m., implying that he was going to do a drug deal. He returned to her house, made a phone call, and said he was going to flip something for $110,000. Lorenzen left in a vehicle driven by an unidentified person. This was the last time Shara claimed she saw him. On August 5, 2010, Lorenzen Wright's memorial service was held at the FedEx Forum in Memphis, Tennessee, where he played professional basketball with the Grizzlies. The investigation was outwardly quiet. There were no arrests and very few leads to follow. Shara Wright received a $1 million life insurance payout. She made a fresh start and moved the children from Memphis, Tennessee to Riverside, California. Life went on, and Shara got remarried. In 2014, Shara settled a court dispute with Lorenzen's father over how she spent the life insurance money, which was really meant for the benefit of their 6 living children. They removed her as a trustee of the money. Deborah suspected that her daughter-in-law played a role in her son's murder. Those suspicions increased when Shara wrote a book called Mr. Tell Me Anything. The plotline involved the wife of a basketball player who murdered her husband. The wife was frustrated with the chaos of being married to a basketball player who was constantly surrounded by women, new friends, family, and greed. On December 15, 2017, they arrested Shara Wright in California. She was sent back to Memphis, Tennessee, and was charged with first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, and attempted first-degree murder. Her bond was set at $20 million because of her questionable behavior and the high likelihood that she would be convicted. In jail, Shara stripped naked and stuffed all her clothes in the toilet to flood the cell. She said she was going swimming, y'all. Shara cursed at the guards and refused to comply with their orders. The defense blamed it on her deteriorating mental health. Police finally put all the evidence together during the weeks leading up to her arrest. They found the murder weapon in Lake Walnut in Mississippi, off of County Road 302, which was retrieved by divers from the FBI. A ballistics expert tested the weapon and confirmed it was used to murder Lorenzen Wright. Shara Wright's cousin, Jimmy Martin, told investigators where to find the murder weapon. He was at the lake with another person named Billy Ray Turner, helping dispose of the weapon back in 2010. Billy Ray Turner was a landscaper and a church deacon at Mount Olive No. 1 Missionary Baptist Church in Collierville. Shara belonged to the same church. She and Billy Ray Turner had been in a secret relationship. Police had already arrested Turner as they determined he was part of the murder plot. They set his bail at $15 million. Police set up electronic surveillance on Turner and Shara. They were recorded while discussing the fact that law enforcement recovered the murder weapon from the lake. In one of their calls, Shara said, "Someone done sent someone somewhere to get something." This was her acknowledgement that police were working with someone who knew where the murder weapon was tossed. Shara flew from her home in California back to Memphis to meet with Turner to discuss the situation in person. Cousin Jimmy Martin played the role of the informant, which led to Turner and Wright's arrests. But he was not the best person for police to rely on because he was no saint. On January 13, 2007, around 7 p.m., this wannabe rapper, who also went by the name of Tricksta, shot his 24-year-old girlfriend in the chest and killed her. Martha Jean Bonus served in the United States Army and had been to Iraq. She also worked as a security guard in Memphis. Jimmy Martin claimed he was showing her how to use the safety on a small pistol when the accident happened. The prosecution argued that a U.S. Army veteran and security guard would not need a tutorial on how to shoot a pistol. Jimmy called 911 and could be heard on the call saying it was an accident. The prosecution told the court that this made no sense, as she was familiar with weapons, being active duty in the Army, and working as a security guard for Imperial Security. One of Martha's Army friends was on the phone with her the hour prior to her death, and Martin was heard yelling in the background. Martha excused herself from the call and promised her friend that she would call her back. She called back in 20 minutes, but immediately hung up after one ring. Days later, the friend found out that Martha was shot in her apartment. The domestic violence issues had been escalating between the couple for months leading up to the shooting. In April 2006, Martin chased Martha from their apartment with a hammer. She ran to her car as he threw the hammer at her. The car window shattered and sprayed Martha with broken glass. One of Martha's friends from the security guard job said her boyfriend was possessive and jealous. Martha would come to work with bruises and black eyes and no explanations. Martha's sister visited her only to find Martha upset with scratches on her body. Jimmy showed up to Martha's work angry and banging on the window, saying, "Bitch, I need to talk to you right now." He had to be escorted off the property. In 2009, Martin was acquitted of first-degree murder, but the jury deadlocked on second-degree murder. Martin was out on bond from 2009 to 2012. He went to trial a second time and was convicted of the second-degree murder of his girlfriend in 2012 and was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Days after the conviction, Martin started talking to police about Shara Wright and Billy Ray Turner. Ironically, Shara had been helping him with the legal fees for his defense in his murder trial. For the cases against Shara Wright and Billy Ray Turner, the prosecution granted Jimmy Martin immunity. Martin said he was at a meeting with Shara and Turner when they planned Lorenzen's murder in Memphis. A woman named Claudia Robinson was also present at this meeting. Martin said that a few days after Lorenzen's murder, Shara drove to his home in Batesville, Mississippi. She borrowed a metal detector from Martin's mother. They drove to Memphis, Tennessee, and picked up Turner on the way. Turner and Shara confessed to Martin that they killed Lorenzen and drove to the crime scene to clean it up. The metal detector was used to find the murder weapon, which had been dropped during the murder. Turner had driven with Martin back to Mississippi, and they tossed the gun in a lake. They also used a shotgun in the crime, and Martin drew investigators a map back in 2012 so they could recover the weapon. There had been a previous murder attempt on Lorenzen's life when he was at his condo in Atlanta, but it was unsuccessful. During her last visit to Lorenzen's condo, Shara purposefully left one window unlocked. Turner entered through that window while Martin said he stayed outside. Turner found a person sleeping on the couch, but it wasn't Lorenzen, so he left. Martin said Lorenzen had been visiting from Atlanta. Shara lured him to the golf course. The wooded place on the golf course was where Lorenzen's body was found, and was a place where he and Shara would go to have sex. Based on interviews with her cousin and cell phone records, she was there when he was murdered. There was a text chain between Shara and Lorenzen on his last night alive, which was explicit and showed she was luring him to his death. Turner and Shara ambushed and chased Lorenzen. He tried to run and cleared an 8-foot barbed wire fence, but collapsed after they shot him. Martin claimed he was in Batesville, Mississippi, when the murder took place. When Billy Ray Turner was arrested, he was found with weapons. Like cousin Jimmy, Billy Turner was no saint. He was a convicted felon who was now found with 2 guns. Besides the murder charges, he was charged with possessing a weapon as a convicted felon. In 1992, Turner had charges that included theft of property, 2 counts of reckless endangerment with a deadly weapon, 2 counts of aggravated assault, attempted kidnapping, possession of cocaine, and burglary. He spent almost 2 years in prison from 1993 to 1995. On July 25, 2019, Shara Wright bypassed having a trial by pleading guilty to facilitation of first-degree murder and facilitation of a criminal attempt to commit first-degree murder. She was sentenced to 30 years in prison. When she attended the hearing, she answered the judge's questions in a soft voice. Shara said she was taking medication to treat anxiety and depression. According to the prosecution, Lorenzen's family ultimately gave their blessing with Shara's plea deal, but Deborah Marion was thrown for a loop. I got here thinking it was to have a trial, but then they called us in a room back there and said, wait a minute, we made a deal. It just blew me away. How is this possible? I'm thinking I'm going to come and hear everything that happened step by step, but no. When Deborah was allowed to dress Shara, she said she wanted to see her grandkids. This whole situation had strained their relationship. Deborah previously told her grandkids not to listen to her or anyone else about Shara's guilt or innocence. She wanted them to follow the evidence and see what they found. The grandchildren came to a different conclusion about their mother's guilt than their grandmother did. The defense attorney told reporters that Lorenzen beat Cher for years, and she was tired of it. The beatings were consistent and had even disfigured her face. He also beat the children and was involved with drug dealers. His poster boy image was not accurate. This would have been their defense if Cher had gone to trial. Lorenzen's mother said, "We were not happy with her plea deal. How does she only get 30 years when she set up a murder and she pulled the trigger? Everything pointed to her." In 2021, ESPN interviewed Cher, and she denied her involvement in the murder. Lorenzen's mother said that Cher refused to tell the truth. She is still acting like she didn't have anything to do with it. She thinks nobody is going to touch her. That is how she lived all of her life. In March 2022, Cher's co-conspirator, 51-year-old Billy Ray Turner, was convicted of first-degree murder, attempted murder, and conspiracy after only 2 hours of jury deliberation. He was sentenced to life plus 25 years, and 16 years were added for the gun charges, so his time added up to life plus 41 years. The judge reassured Deborah Marianne that Lorenzen was a sacred son of Memphis. The trial wouldn't bring her closure that she deserved, but would celebrate the good about her son. When Deborah left the courtroom, she declared she would visit her son's grave. The result of the trial gave her family some satisfaction. On May 11, 2022, Cher Wright asked the Tennessee Board of Parole for early release after only serving 15% of her sentence. Deborah Marianne spoke out and opposed Cher's early release. Cher's request for early release was denied, and she would not have another hearing until 2027. If she served 100% of her sentence, she would be released at age 75. Lorenzen's mother vowed to attend every single one of Cher's parole hearings as long as she was alive. "I'm going to make sure she serves those 30 years. Until she comes with her real truth, and as long as the blood stays warm in my body, I will be there every time." 28-year-old Lorenzen Wright Jr. is a basketball coach and fitness expert. He lives in Los Angeles, California. 26-year-old Lauren Wright is a nurse. She married basketball player Joshua Phillips and changed her name to Lauren Phillips. The couple lives in California. 23-year-old Lamar and Shamar Wright both play basketball for Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville. Not much is known about Lawson Wright, who is a college student. 16-year-old Sophia Wright is a high school student and is taken care of by her older sister Lauren. Cher Wright is housed at Deborah K. Johnson Rehabilitation Center in Nashville, Tennessee. Despite all the evidence against Cher, the adult children believe their mother is innocent. After Cher's arrest, they started a GoFundMe account to raise money for her bail, and they publicly defended her in a LA Times interview. Recently, the University of Memphis made plans to honor Lorenzen and retire his number 55 jersey. Lorenzen Wright is buried in the Calvary Cemetery in Memphis, Tennessee. He is Memphis, Tennessee's sacred son. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Beyond Contempt. Please visit BeyondContemptPodcast.com for the links to the sources and music used in this episode. Research, writing, editing, audio production, and sound design were performed by me, Renee. If you like the show, please leave me a positive review in Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Thank you so much, everyone.